A little bit about the parish itself. St. Thomas has a history of being active in not so much environmental, but in social justice issues. So we have a long history of being involved with civil rights and other social justice issues. And we have a reputation for being perhaps a little bit more liberal than some of the other Catholic parishes in the Archdiocese. Our creation care ministry began in 2007 when several members of the parish would run into each other at environmental events. And so they said, well, hey, we obviously have an interest in this. Let's see if we can get together and have something official from the church and start a ministry at the church. So they started out on a very unofficial basis and just started working with a few of the things that were happening. So for example, for the coffee hour, they said, well, maybe we could have fair trade coffee instead of stuff from Kroger's or whatever. And maybe we could use some reusable mugs instead of styrofoam mugs. So they started out small, and they started working with people at various groups in the parish. And after several months of this, decided to give a presentation to the parish council and say, well, you know, maybe we should be recognized as an official part of the parish. So they gave a presentation to parish council and became an official committee, and they were under the Social Concerns and Christian Service Commission of the Parish Council. So then they had official status. We had official status. We're calling this a bottom-up model because the beginnings were from just the grassroots, just from people who decided to do something. In contrast to that, we have what we call a top-down model, and this is an example from the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church in Indianapolis, just almost to Carmel. The current church building was built fairly recently in about 2008, I believe, and the parish serves about 500 households. They did not have any kind of green team at all. The pastor was invited to a breakfast with some other ministers of churches in the area as sort of an exploratory, would you like to learn more about creation care? Well, he couldn't go, but he was interested. So he asked one of his parishioners to go, and she was very interested, and she kind of got into it, and he said, I give you my blessing, go forth, make a team, make it happen. So we're calling this top-down model because the beginnings came from the parish leadership. But with either model, you need to find like-minded people. So you have to find team members. And how do you do that? Well, here's some ideas. So first, advertise widely. You can put notices in bulletins. You can, sometimes parishes have time and talent cards. I don't know how other congregations might do it, but stewardship cards where you have a list of all the ministries in the congregation. So get listed on that time and talent card through electronic mailings, announcements from the pulpit, displays in the back of church. Just try and get your word out there. Secondly, invite people that you think would be interested. I'm sure that you know the people that think the way you do, the people who are using the reusable water bottles, the people that pick the recycling out of the trash and put it in the right spot, gardeners, people who are members of environmental groups, somebody who's part of Sierra Club, or a naturalist, maybe an environmental educator. Maybe it's somebody on the facilities management side of your congregation, somebody who has responsibility for taking care of waste management and is trying to reduce the amount of waste. So look around and see who you think would be a good person for your team. Be aware that we all have other obligations, so sometimes people are interested, but they just can't be official member of the team. People come and go as their circumstances change, so always keep an eye out for people. And when you have events, make sure you capture people's information. They might like to be a member of your team as well. Okay, what's in a name? Once you have your team, what do you call it? Well, people have been called green teams, sustainability committees, earth care, creation care, all kinds of different names. At St. Thomas, we started out as the green team because that seemed to be what groups were going for. But on reflection, we decided we wanted to change our name to Creation Care Ministry. And the reason we did that is because ministry comes from the Greek word to serve. Our designation as a ministry reminds us that as we are taking actions to save energy and to educate people, we are really serving God and the people of God. And we call ourselves a team because a team denotes people working together to reach a common goal while supporting each other. And let's face it, nobody really wants to be on a committee. But whatever you call yourself, it's fine. Just find a name that energizes and motivates you. Okay, you've got your team. Now what? So again, there are different approaches to this. In our bottom-up model, we started out with writing with doing some small activities first. We didn't even have a mission statement. We just started doing things. And then as we were doing things, we started saying, well, there are different activities that we're doing. They fall into different categories. So let's formalize this and let's write a mission statement. What is it that we want to do? So our mission statement says to promote the joyful stewardship of our earth through simplicity, sustainability, and spirituality. Well, wrong order, but same idea. And as we thought about this mission, then we identified several areas that we wanted to focus on. And so we made several goals. The first goal is to connect people with faith. So it says to deepen the understanding that our faith calls us to care for creation and to encourage parishioners to explore the spiritual foundation of ecological actions. Our second goal is in education, to educate the parishioners of St. Thomas Aquinas about the importance of being good stewards of our environment and to assist them to employ more eco-friendly habits in their own homes. The third goal was looking at actions on the campus. So to develop concrete actions for the STA parish leaders and ministries to take that lessen any negative environmental impact that we may have. The fourth is similar to that, only a little bit longer term. So to look at developing a long-term action plan for both the parish and the school. It's important to remember that your goals can change. And in fact, we are considering adding a fifth goal now because as we've started making changes at campus, on the campus, and we're realizing that that's great, but we need to join our voices to the larger faith community, and so now we are going to be doing more advocacy work. As you are setting your goals, consider these three pillars of creation care. And these come from the book, Greening Your Church, and that the information about this book is in your handout there. But what they said was to consider three areas. So spirituality. This area is especially linked to liturgies and religious or spiritual education. Awareness, so this is education, informing people about environmental issues. And action, taking changes or making changes. Take actions both campus and in congregants' homes. At Holy Spirit, so in their top-down model, what they decided to do was take more of a big picture approach, and they are, or what they began by doing was an environmental audit, and a copy of that audit is one of the handouts there. So they found that to be very useful. So what they did was divided up their team into different sections, and each of them looked at a different area of the campus. They are looking at the buildings, they're looking at building systems like lights and energy use. They're looking at outside the building, what they can do with plants, with rain gardens, with lighting in the parking lots, and then also congregational awareness activities. So they're using this, the results of this environmental audit to build what they do next. So you have your team, you've set some goals to pursue, and now it's time to take action. And now Andy is going to give you some more advice and talk about some specific resources that you might find to be helpful.
Let's get down to the nuts and bolts. When you start choosing your activities to do, there's your first activity. There's a few things you need to keep in mind. The first one is to start with small, non-controversial activities just to build your cred and build support. Put on films, put green tips in the bulletin, something to save money. A real good way to begin is to assess your building's energy use. And it has the advantage of not only saving energy, but saving money as well. And saving money is something everybody can agree upon. And that money that you save can be used in your other ministries to do good works. And it's a non-controversial way to begin making changes to your campus. It's going to build cred with your congregation and give you some early successes that you can publicize. You need to publicize your successes. Always, always offer a wide variety of activities. Some people respond to spiritual activities. Some will want education. Some will want to take direct action. Identify what the needs are within your own congregation, and remember, there can be multiple needs. Keep yourself open. Your needs are not everybody's needs. By all means, be non-threatening. We have gotten in trouble with that a few times. It's been our experience that most people are supportive as long as you don't make them feel defensive. You know you're right, but it does no good to tell other people they're wrong. It's going to get them working against you. Connect with all other ministries in your congregation. Do you have a women's group, a garden group, prayer or study group? Connect up with them. You can always, especially in prayer groups, you can always offer resources on creation care as something that they can study. Be visible, especially in the beginning. This is very, very important. You want people to know your group is there, it's active, and you're doing good things. And as a part of that, be sure and keep track of your progress. Now, there's ways to calculate your carbon footprint and track your energy use, and that's can't overemphasize that. Saving energy, saving money is a very good way to start. One congregation I know posts their utility bills in their community room every month with a big, nice graphic to watch the utility bills come down. Keeps your name out there. Here's how we publicize a lot. We have a big freestanding blackboard that we publicize upcoming events and our successes. We also have a Facebook page that shares information from other electronic media. We forward it to them. But however you choose to do it, keep yourself in front of the congregation. We have an environmental tip each week in our bulletin called the Green Corner. Yeah, okay, it helps parishioners green their lives, but more importantly, it lets them know the creation care ministry is alive and active and just keeps us in their mind. Very important. As far as areas to consider for actions to take, you of course want to build creation care into your worship. And this is kind of easy because there are special days built into the year that you can do this. St. Francis Feast Day, Earth Day, Blessings of the Animals, and now there's a season of creation that runs from September 1st to the Feast of St. Francis. Education. Educate adults and youth. Go beyond Sundays. Have book studies, films. Take field trips. People love field trips. Take field trips to the waste treatment plant. That can be an educational experience. Field trips to recycling plants. Visit urban gardens. And if your congregation has a school or religious ed program for the children, consider how creation care can be integrated into that curriculum. Involve the young people. The young people are so very, very important in this because we want to make them sustainability natives. They are the next generation that's going to carry this through. We want good environmental habits to become a normal part of their lives. And Sharon can tell you that influence the children, and they can have a tremendous influence on their parents too. Mission work. Does your congregation do any mission work within your neighborhoods? I know there are some congregations in Indianapolis that instead of giving money to low-income people to help them pay their utility bills, will go in and winterize their homes. And that uses the same money, same amount of money, but what it does is it lowers their utility bills from now on. It's got a lasting effect. Invite the neighborhood to some of your educational activities. Organize local trash pickups, electronic recyclings. If you can get yourself going with an urban garden, invite the neighbors to each have a plot there. Then there's the property on your campus itself. Consider doing an energy audit. Maybe have a rain garden, put in native plantings. And people then will ask you, well, why are you planting this? And that'll give you a chance to come out and tell them why. And your social gatherings. Be sure and minimize the use of disposable items at all your social gatherings like they're doing here. Again, it's also another opportunity to get your message out. People will ask, why are you doing this? And you have a willing audience to listen. But just as there are things to consider for your team, there's also a few things to avoid. As I mentioned earlier, make suggestions in a non-threatening way. And this goes along with that. Don't make people feel guilty because they're doing something in a non-environmental way or just not the way you would do it. Everybody, remember that everybody is in a different place in their journey. And you've got to help them along wherever they are. Help them start. Self-righteousness. Oh, you can really get caught up with that, and it goes right along with guilt trips. It's very easy to become smug and self-righteous because you think you have the answers to the environmental problems. Be on your best behavior because people are watching. Believe me, you may not see it, people are watching. Avoid any association with political parties or liberal conservative talk or anything like that. We are advocating preserving a precious gift that God has given us. That should cross all party lines. The thing that's up for grabs, the thing that's open for debate, is how to go about doing that, not that it should be done. You can really get caught up in your mission and feel like these environmental issues are so important that they ought to be your congregation's main concern. And face it, they're not. And if it's not your congregation's main concern, you're going to feel like you failed. You got to step back a minute and realize that your congregation has many priorities. And for most people, this is just one priority. So be sensitive to that. Now when you start out, you will fail. And you will fail again. But please don't get discouraged. You will have successes. Everything you try doesn't have to succeed. Maybe your congregation just isn't ready for a particular program at this time. Be patient. Come back to it later. It will materialize in its own time. Now here's some activities just to give you some ideas that St. Thomas has done connecting to faith. We've had an eco-spirituality faith-sharing group, moderated discussion groups on faith and environmental issues. This is from the Catholic Climate Covenant. They put out films that you can show. We've also encouraged parishioners to take the St. Francis Pledge, to care for creation and care for the poor. In 2013, we implemented a 7-week faith-sharing program called Lent 4.5. that encourages people to focus on living simply. In March of 2015, we sponsored a prayer breakfast in which the Archbishop of Indianapolis, Joseph Tobin, spoke on the stewardship of creation. And of course, as Catholics, we're very, very excited about the release of the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si, and have led several discussion groups about the encyclical. And lately, we've been fortunate enough that our Creation Care Ministry is being able to participate in bringing the message of creation care to other parishes in our archdiocese. We try to educate our parishioners by sharing eco-friendly tips that they can use in their own home. I mentioned before that we have a green corner in the boat. And they can just be a little thing. This is what we have once a week. We've sponsored a 5-week class on living lean and green. We have shared information about Task of the Month, which is a 12-step monthly project to take on to reduce household energy use. By the way, more information on the Task of the Month is available at the Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light table in the exhibitor area. We've connected this with the school and helped them to implement the We Care for Creation theme. Our school, by the way, was recognized by the U.S. Department of Education as a Green Ribbon School for 2014. And through the school, we sponsored art contests, and the school put on an Earth Day fair, which the whole parish was able to attend. We've also made changes to the St. Thomas Aquinas campus. Our school began by recycling paper, which we then opened up for neighborhood use. So the whole neighborhood comes and uses our Abitibi recycle bin, which, by the way, these people pay us for the paper we recycle, and we use that, we put that back into our Creation Care Ministries. After that started going fairly well, we added bins for plastics and other recyclables. And we thought that as long as the school was getting along fairly well with that, in order to increase our impact, in order to increase our presence within the parish, we started recycling at our parish festival. Now, this, by the way, in our van there is the first time we did this at our parish festival, and we managed to get, maybe half a van full of recyclables that we then took to the local park and shoved in their recycling area. But with a little work, recycling has become a culture in the parish. We have recycling on campus now, and what you see in this picture is the amount of recycling that we collected for one day of our parish festival. And then this was emptied, and the next day we collected a similar amount. But it wasn't the first thing that happened off the bat. It took us 5 years to work up to this amount. Patience. You need patience. Sharon mentioned that we use reusable mugs and that at our coffee clatches, and this is a little cart that we provided so that they can store all the mugs in there. Sometimes the people need a little help. And our latest efforts are to try and understand the complexities of energy use in our parish and to minimize our own heating, cooling, lighting costs. Here's a couple of people chasing down an air leak that we got. Now, I'm going to just go through all these resources quickly, just to give you an idea what's out there. Don't worry about writing anything down because all the resources there are on the handouts. Catholic Climate Covenant is a good resource. Brings Catholic people and institutions together that to care for creation. Are we going? Okay. Through them, you can take the St. Francis Pledge, make sort of a commitment to pray for those affected by climate change, learn, assess your own actions, act and advocate for others. Lint 4.5, there's more information out there on our table in the exhibitor area. U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has a lot of resources, and Catholic Ecology and Global Catholic Climate Movement have websites with information, and of course, Interfaith Power and Light, which does have a table out there. Here's some books that your congregation might want to think of using. Again, these are on the resources, and we have them out there on the table in the exhibit area if you'd like to look at them. The encyclical, Care for Creation, looks at Franciscan spirituality. Stewardship of Creation speaks about what Catholics should know. Moral Ground is a collection of essays. Active Hope tries to get you out of the despair that the world is going down the tubes and there's no hope for it. Serve God, Save the Planet is a faith-based Christian call to action. And Love God, Heal the Earth is written by Reverend Sally Bingham, the founder of Interfaith Power and Light. For group studies, these particular books are good. Low Carbon Diet and Green Living Handbook is workbooks to help individuals create an environmentally sustainable lifestyle. Lent 4.5, we've talked about. And Patricia Tull has written a couple very good books, an Old Testament scholar, which are for sale out there at the vendors' tables. And the Green Church series has several books that you might be interested in. Reference books we found, Greening Your Church and 7 Simple Steps, are good books for your team to have to get started. Also, for those of you who are not of the Catholic faith, Catholics seem to be a little behind on some of these things, there are certification programs through your denominations that can help you with ideas. Green Faith is an interfaith program. Earth Care Congregations is from the Presbyterian churches. The Green Chalice program is from the Disciples of Christ. The Green Sanctuary program is from Unitarian Universalist. And the Green Church Association is a nonprofit. Remember, it doesn't all depend on you. Enlist help from other people. You can probably find a few people who don't want to be on your team but would like to be involved on 1 or 2 projects a year. Use them. Don't despair. If you feel you're not getting anywhere in your mission, you may feel overwhelmed. But when you do take an action, it generates hope. Do something, even if it's a small thing, and you'll feel better. Don't be surprised how one thing will lead to another, sometimes in ways you didn't expect. Be open for that, adapt to the change as it comes. And your main limitation will be time. Don't burn yourself out, mentally or physically. Take time for your team to have a night out for relaxation once in a while. And almost as important as what you're doing is the fact that you're witnessing, and people will notice your actions. You are not alone. The Interfaith Power and Light is a national organization dedicated to helping faith-based groups do their missions. Faith in Place is the Illinois branch of Interfaith Power and Light. The Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light is for Indiana, and Kentucky Interfaith Power and Light is for Kentucky. And locally, in the Evansville area, and again, this will be on the handout, this group meets at the Vandenberg Library every other month. And St. Thomas Aquinas can also be a source for you if you are interested in getting in touch with us. So, you want to call it there?
So the question was, how many active members do we have on our team? The number has varied. I think it started out with maybe 3 or 4. It's been as many as maybe 8 or 9. I think currently we have about 6 active members. He asked about the top-down model and why didn't we go to the Catholic Archdiocese? Why did we go to the Greek Orthodox? And that was 2 different congregations. We gave this presentation in Hamilton County back in September, I think. and co-presented with the lady from Greek Orthodox, from Holy Trinity. So she spoke about her church, and it just happened to be a different kind of model. So we said, well, that's the way we're going to approach it. And we realized, yeah, there's different ways that we can do this. You asked about the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. We are actually working with the Archdiocese now, and we are very excited. We met with Archbishop Tobin last June, shortly after the encyclical came out, and he's very supportive, but big organizations change slowly, so he was not able to make any changes at that point. He couldn't move as fast as we wanted him to move, but a person has been hired to direct pastoral ministries. They've done some reorganization, and Creation Care is going to be part of his activities. We are actually meeting with him on Tuesday, so we are making progress in the Archdiocese. Yes, sir.
What's been your biggest hurdle?
What's been our biggest hurdle? I don't know.
I think our biggest hurdle was being noticed in the parish, having people take us seriously. And we had to have some successes that we publicized before people started actually paying attention.
I think we're a fairly hopeful group, so we haven't let ourselves get discouraged. We just try something different. I think what I would add to that is a disappointment has been when we do some activities like films, that we don't get more people. We get the people that you always get, the people on the team, but we haven't really been able to reach out too much, it seems, to the people who aren't already paying attention. I think that's changing, though. We did a survey of the parish right before Christmas to find out what people's attitudes are and what actions they're taking and what they want to find out about, so it's going to help us decide what to do next. And we had 120-some surveys returned, so we thought that was pretty good. And a lot of people had a lot of good ideas, so yeah, I think we're getting more word out there. Question? No? Yes, sir. There are other Catholic parishes who also have Creation Care ministries. So I don't believe we were the first, but I think maybe ours has been the most sustaining. I think ours has lasted the longest with the most input. We do know of several other parishes where it was basically one or two people who were really pushing, and they got very discouraged because nobody was helping, or they didn't feel like they were making much of a impact. So they kind of got burned out. But there are other parishes out there. And in fact, the group that's meeting with the representative from the Archdiocese, that is not just St. Thomas. That's a group of at least 5 or 6 different Catholic organizations. So.
Okay, well, it is 11 o'clock, so we're kind of going to call it there, although I do want to offer one last little reflection before we go. As I mentioned before, there's lots of groups out there willing to help you, but you've always got to remember that you have another source of help. We truly believe we're being inspired by the Holy Spirit to do the work we are doing in our Creation Care ministry, and I'd like to offer you a reflection on the Holy Spirit that's been adapted from a homily given by our pastor at Pentecost. We Christians have always used the graceful, peaceful, and gentle image of the dove to symbolize the Holy Spirit. But in the Celtic Church of ancient Ireland, the Holy Spirit was not represented by a dove, but by a wild goose. Now, at first glance, this may seem a little odd, but think about how a goose behaves. Geese are not controllable. Geese make a lot of noise. They travel together. They protect their young. And they can make life very difficult for people who get in their way. Now think about what the Holy Spirit did at Pentecost. The wild goose of Pentecost has descended on the disciples of every age, making them noisy and sometimes irritable, making them people who challenge injustices that are structural and institutional, especially injustices like hunger and poverty. The wild goose of Pentecost comes crashing through closed doors of the media-dominated world where everything is carefully crafted and controlled. She lands directly on top of us, the church, and burns into our consciousness the idea that if we are to be anything at all like Jesus, we have to bring some harmony and unity out of the constant babble of voices that seek nothing more than simple justice. Lord, when did we see you? The problem is we've forgotten all that. Somehow we've tamed the spirit, dampened the fire, domesticated the dove. We've been seduced by a lot of gentle, lulling cooing that we think is coming from the Holy Spirit. It's not. She's not cooing at us. She's honking at us. This wild goose demands to be heard no matter how unpleasant the sound. She is calling all of her goslings together, insisting that when it comes to the message of Jesus, they support one another and travel together. Think about what we've been called to do. Think about the symbols of Pentecost: red for passion, fire for action, and a common language of mercy and compassion. Think of the Holy Spirit as wild goose. As you leave here today, remember that you go not only with our support, but the support of all of the organizations, but also with the support of the Holy Spirit. And as we say in our creation care ministry at St. Thomas Aquinas, the goose is loose. Thank you.